What if the legendary swords that ended the Seiri War, the 6 enchanted blades said to hold the very soul of Kagurabashi, were also the weapons that could destroy everything you believe in? What if the craft meant to protect the weak became the very tool that feeds cruelty, and the legacy you were born to carry becomes the heaviest burden of all? Now, to know the full truth behind them, let's dive into the story and see exactly what happened. This is where it all began for me, right here in the fire and smoke. Yes, right here, my boy, remember it okay. We call this Tanrin, the forging that gives a sword its soul. We start with tamahagane, steel made only from pure iron sand. We heat it until it glows white, fold it over, hammer it thin, and do it all again. Hundreds, thousands of times. Every blow beats out the weakness. Every fold makes it stronger. Don't tell anyone, okay? My father Kunishige taught me this. He told me, the fire doesn't destroy steel. It makes it what it was always meant to be. I stood right beside him, matching his strike for strike, learning that the hardest work is what makes something unbreakable. Everything we forged, every step of the way, turns into a beautiful, strong katana. That's what it's all for. All the heat, all the hammering. So this blade can become what it was always meant to be. Right now, we stepped out toward the Rokuhira Swordsmith workshop, ready to start another day's work. Dad looked up at the sky and say, "Look at that, Chihiro, the sun's all bright today." I nodded, brushing my hair back. "Yeah, it's sunny." He grinned, throwing his voice out toward the light. "Yo, son, you trying to tell us to play outside?" I watched him, confused, and thought to myself, what's up with him today? He just shook his head. Yeesh. I'm here in the forge with my father, tending the fire and sorting the coal. Every day starts the same way, quiet, hot, and full of work. I glance over at him often. He doesn't just make swords. He makes special katana using his own unique method. He's the most famous swordsmith in all the land. His name is Kunishige Rokuhira, my father. I don't just watch him work, either. I train hard with him every single day. When he tells me to strike, I just say, okay. Then I lift my hammer and bring it down exactly how he taught me. Right now, though, Dad's in serious mode. I can tell right away, he's not messing around at all. I remember it so clearly. He was acting totally different from usual, like he turned back into a little kid whenever he was near those goldfish. He just sat there, leaning close to the bowl, staring at them like they were about to tell him a secret. I said, "Dad," and he answered softly, without even looking away, "Yeah, true." I stepped over and said, "Breakfast's ready." He finally looked up and blinked like he was waking up from a nice dream. "Oh, thanks." Then I said, "Normally people do the talking, right? But just now, you were listening to your goldfish like they were the ones telling you what to do." He scratched his head, all sheepish, and just said, "Oh, yeah, I guess I was." He suddenly snapped out of his daze, clapping his hands together. Then he said, "Oops, my bad. Now let's eat." I couldn't help but tease him. Did the goldfish say anything? He settled in his seat and answered me seriously. More than anything, they just want to dedicate themselves to learning. And right then, I could almost picture it, like I was hearing the fish themselves say it. Yeah, more than anything, we just want to dedicate ourselves to learning. I just sighed and kept eating. Give me a break. Come to think of it, Dad's the one who brought these little guys here. You see, this is all how it happened that he brought them home. He burst right in, full of excitement. Then he shouted, "Chihiro, get ready to freak out. Look what I got." I didn't even look up, just said, "What?" Then he went on, "Scored him on the way back from the sword polishers." I still kept my eyes down and asked, "Scored what?" Then he held up the bag and said proudly, "Fresh goldfish." He leaned in, looking totally confused. Then he asked, "Why aren't you more excited?" I just stayed quiet for a moment. Then I said plainly, "Who do you think's gonna end up taking care of them? Not you, right?" He said all excited. "But the shop guy said goldfish are good luck." Then I said, "And you believed him?" Then he pointed at each fish one by one. "The black one wards off evil. The red one attracts good fortune." Then I asked, "What about the 3-colored one?" But I just said flatly, "You don't say." He paused, then added awkwardly, It's supposed to be totally amazing. And if we have fresh goldfish in the house," I began. "Could you quit saying fresh?" He stood firm, grinning. "I already bought them anyway. Anyway, they're good luck. So now we have fresh goldfish as pets." I sighed and told him straight. When you call a fish fresh, it sounds like you're gonna eat it. He just blinked and asked, confused, why? Then I remember seeing his face light up like he'd just had a brilliant thought, and he said, oh, that's an idea. And that's exactly when I decided. I'd be the one taking care of these goldfish. My dad's a real handful, that's for sure. So now, looking after them is just one more responsibility I've got to take on. And that's the end of the flashback. Now we're back to the present. We're back in the forge, hammers in hand, working as one. Tang, tang, tadong. Straight, Dad says. I swing hard, clang. But, I start then say, okay. Sparks fly everywhere as we keep striking, shaping the metal blow by blow. From outside, someone watches and says, oh, they're at it. Inside, Dad looks over and asks, want to stop for lunch soon? I answer, yeah. He grins at me. Yo, Chihiro, your arms are getting swole. I reply surprised, oh yeah. He flexes his own arm and laughs. I think they're bigger in mine. Ha ha ha. Then I notice someone and I say, oh, Dad calls out, huh? Shiba. Shiba walks in, carrying a bag in his coat, saying, brought some souvenirs. Man, I'm beat. He heads over to us and asks, how you doing, Chihiro? I take the bag and reply, same as ever. Dad huffs from the side. Ever hear of asking first? Dad asks him, how was town? Shiba smirks and answers, definitely not peaceful. Dad says, gotcha. Let me tell you, this guy is Mr. Shiba, an old friend of Dad's who stops by sometimes. And honestly, this man is so good-looking I'd literally go gay for him. Shiba looks at the fishbowl and says, sure grew up, Chihiro. I just say, you think so? Shiba jokes, too bad. I'm still bigger. I just say, yeah. Shiba says, it's no exaggeration. 15 years ago in the Seiri War, the swords he made ended the war. He was more famous than fighters like me. Dad calls out, can it, Shiba? Shiba adds, your dad's a great teacher. Dad sighs, oh, come on. Mr. Shiba says, your dad saved a lot of people. He's a hero. Don't forget that. I reply, yeah. I've heard that hundreds of times. Shiba says, not that much. Yeah, well, you always look happy to hear it. He adds, you're a hard worker, aren't you, Chihiro? I'm sure you'll be like your old man one day. I reply, yeah. Heard that hundreds of times too. Shiba says, not that much. Fine, Chihiro. I got one you ain't heard before. I stare at him, confused. Wait, hours later, Mr. Shiba suddenly shouts, I talk too much. He heads out the door, waves and calls, bye. I turn to Dad and ask, what's up? Dad looks at me and says, you're gonna be 15 soon. If you want to be a real swordsmith, it's about time I show you the stuff that ain't so bright and shiny. Dad holds that usual slack, couldn't care less look he always wears, and says plainly, that's all. I speak firmly. Then do it. Just so you know, I'm not joking about becoming a swordsmith. I'm serious. I want to follow in your footsteps. Hearing this, he doesn't break his usual goofy, unbothered expression at all. Keeps that same lazy, half-dazed face like he always does. Then simply says, yeah, okay. I know. Dad steps into the quiet room, and there lies a finely crafted katana. He says, there's a few of them stored in the basement. Mostly katana I made before you were born, Chihiro. I look at him, confused. I ask, katana used in the war? Dad answers, yeah. Katana have always saved lives and slashed open new eras. But I'm sure you know. Dad holds the katana up, looks at the blade, and says, there's still tools for killing people. And he swings the sword down hard, slicing clean through the wooden practice post, and continues, we're complicit in the deaths they cause. If they fall into evil hands, they can kill good people. As swordsmiths, we have to always keep that in mind. Dad grips the katana firmly and says, katana should be wielded by those dedicated to vanquishing evil and protecting the weak. That goes for us too. We need to have principles and accountability. One day, you'll sell your first katana. And when you hand someone a katana, those two heavy weights will fall on your shoulders. Can you carry that burden? Chihiro bows his head low and answers quietly, I don't know, but... I lift my head and say firmly, I'm committed to taking it on. Dad nods. Okay then, let's get back to work. I reply, that's it. He gives a small nod. Yeah, if that's how you feel. All that's left is for me to believe in you. He turns around, already ready to head off, and I murmur quietly to myself, that's my dad. Right as he's about to walk away, I call out casually, hey, clean up the mess you made. Dad freezes, slowly turns back around with a surprised look, then lets out a little awkward laugh. Oops, sorry. 38 months later, there stands a stern, bearded man outside the traditional hall. He barks sharply. Enough. Kill him. Inside, bound and bloodied figures kneel on the floor. This man strikes down hard, and blood splatters across the room. The scene unfolds. First, the right side comes into clear view. Men standing over a ground littered with dead bodies. One man gripping a drawn katana. Then the left side sharpens. A single man kneels bound on the blood-stained floor. The suited man with the katana looks down at him. So, you're the last one. We can't just kill you quick. The bearded man glares and roars first. You bunch of jokers. Each time I see these, they piss me off. He flings the papers down hard right after speaking. The bearded man said, now why don't you tell us who else is a part of your movement? The man in the patterned shirt said, poor thing. He's scared speechless. The captured man said, you. Then the bearded man replied, what? Then the captured man said, before you Korogumi rats came here. This was a peaceful city, ruling the streets with violence, seizing all the land and money you want. The captured guy glares up, blood on his face, shouting angrily, you're the jokers. Just a bunch of maggots infesting the streets. The bearded man swings down hard, striking him, and roars. Then the bearded man straightens up, crossing his arms, voice cold and sharp. Love your bravery, but listen up, you little punk. Do you know who's backing us? The captured guy spits blood, lifts his head, and answers defiantly. A sorcerer, right? So what? He pushes himself up a little more, voice firm and unshaken. The grown-ups are all scared, but I don't care. That's no reason to just roll over and let you rule us. The captured man strains against his restraints, voice tight with fury. Just let me at that sorcerer. The braided man in the black hat watches from above, a faint, knowing smile on his face. How fascinating. Sharp cracking sounds echo, crockle, as twisted black, root-like shapes burst suddenly from the floor right around him. The captured man freezes, eyes wide, completely bewildered. Wah! The scene shifts. A man in traditional robes steps forward, bowing respectfully to the bearded leader. Excuse me, Mr. Yakuza boss. I received your payment for the 5 officials. The man in the hat turns slowly toward them, his tone calm, but cutting. You know, I think bribery is often rooted in ignorance. He looks directly at the captured man, gaze unflinching. Have you ever seen sorcery? The man in the black hat steps closer, his voice calm but firm, as thick, woody branches wrap tight around the captured man's body. I asked you a question. It's your first time, isn't it? The captured man struggles against the roots, gasping in pain and confusion. Why, yes. The man in the hat smirks faintly. I thought so. He then turns his full attention to the bearded Yakuza boss, tone shifting to cool formality. Mr. Yakuza boss, so long as you make your payments, we don't mind how you do your job. The man in the hat speaks seriously, gaze sharp. But when I see upstarts like this, I do worry about your organization. The bearded man bows respectfully. My apologies. The man in the hat raises a finger, tone cold and firm. We must school them properly. He adds calmly. The tree will vanish in time. The man fades completely. Now the scene shifts to the moving train. Tunk, tunk, as the wheels roll smoothly along the tracks. All right, here I am. Do I look any good? It's been 38 whole months. Think I finally glow up at all? A voice cuts through the hum of the train. Chihiro. I snap out of my thoughts, eyes going wide. I look up. There's Mr. Shiba, stepping over with something in his hand, and said, "Mornin'." I nod back. Mr. Shiba. He gestures to the empty seat across from me. Mind if I take this seat? He holds up what he's carrying, grilled smelt. I blink, confused. We were supposed to meet at the station. He grins like it's nothing. Man, great weather, huh? I stare at the snack, still thrown off. So, I've never seen a guy walk around eating grilled fish. He holds the fish out toward me, raising an eyebrow. What you staring at? Want some, Chihiro? I shake my head a little. I'm good. He shrugs and leans back. Okay, fine. Asterisk I watch him take a bite, and know him, and I just sit there, still not getting it. The train keeps rumbling on. Tunk, tunk. After a moment he speaks up again. Hey Chihiro, can I ask you another question? I nod. Yeah. He glances right at the mark on my cheek, tone casual but curious. That scar. You could get it removed, right? It really stands out. Why don't you do something about it? I look down at my hands, then back at him, voice quiet but sharp. Every morning when I wash my face and look in the mirror, I see the scar, and I remember that day. So every day, I start the morning with fresh hatred. Mr. Shiba's smile fades a little. He sets down the grilled fish, looking serious. And you've been living like this ever since? It's gonna break you. I lean forward slightly, eyes narrowing, tone cutting through the train's hum. So? You want to stop me? Then he just eat in silence. The train pulls to a smooth halt at the station. We step out into the sunlit streets, and I glance around at the old buildings and idling cars. Shiba says quietly, his gaze sweeping over the city. This city is ruled by the Korogumi Yakuza. I frown, putting the pieces together. And those Yakuza are connected to them. Shiba nods firmly. Yeah. I press for certainty. You sure? He hesitates, then shrugs honestly. Honestly, I can't be sure. But it's the only lead we've got, right? I concede with a short nod. True. Shiba looks at me, waiting. So what now? I glance at Shiba, set on what we have to do. We'll check it out and see if these Yakuza are reasonable men. And if so, we'll propose a deal. Shiba lets out a dry, sharp huff. Reasonable, huh? We walk past a group of locals talking quietly nearby. One man nods toward the shadows. Those guys were in the anti-Korogumi movement, right? Another shakes his head bitterly. That's what they get for standing up to the Korogumi. A third cuts in, voice tight with anger and grief. Hey now, they were fighting for us citizens. The first man shrugs, resigned. Yeah, but they should have known this would happen. Shiba stops, looking up at the hanging ropes, his tone cold and certain. An opposition movement, huh? This is how the gang keeps people in line. Shiba's voice drops, heavy with the sight before us. They're sending a message, letting everyone know exactly what happens when you interfere. He turns to me, tone sharp and tight. Chihiro, what if the Korogumi are colossal scumbags? My hand tightens on my sword hilt, the guard clicking softly. Chink, as I speak low and steady, Mr. Shiba. A local nearby shakes his head, voice thick with fear and resignation. If we want to survive in this city, we have to submit. I ignore him, fixing my gaze on Shiba. You know where their base is? Shiba nods firmly. Yeah. I step forward, every word clear and unshaken. Take me there. We cut to the Korogumi men gathered outside and inside the hall, slacking off and bickering among themselves. One man grumbles, sounding annoyed. Hey, it was a lot of work stringing them up. You guys could have helped out. Another scoffs, not looking up. You had enough guys? A third shrugs lazily. We're busy watching the door. The man smirks, completely relaxed and arrogant. Nah, if some half-wit had the audacity to waltz up here, we'd take them out. Another man nods lazily. Well, that's good. The first man scoffs, sounding fully convinced. But is anyone really that stupid? They should just shut up and do what they're told. He leans forward, grinning with absolute certainty. For sure. In the same breath, a katana flashes through the air. There's a sharp, heavy thwack. His head snaps hard to the side. Bright blood sprays across the table and the faces of the men beside him. He collapses forward instantly, dead before he can even finish his last word. The others don't get a chance to stand, shout, or draw their weapons. They fall one after another in the same silent, deadly strike. Shiba steps calmly into view and says evenly, Okay, I'll take these guys. In the very next moment, I drop down right onto the center of their table, cloak flaring wide, shadows sweeping over them all. One man freezes, eyes bulging in total disbelief. What? Another grabs for his sword, yelling in rage and confusion. Who the hell? I stand there calmly atop the overturned table, blood dripping from my blade, and speak steady and clear. Sorry to interrupt your conversation. Before they can even lift their weapons, I strike. Steel flashes fast. One by one they fall, some slumping over the table, others collapsing to the floor, blood spreading across the wood and stone. I move like a sudden tornado, blade cutting through the air in a whirlwind of motion. I spin and strike, cloak swirling wide around me, leaving no opening. Every slash lands true, clearing the space in one relentless, overwhelming surge. Bodies fall back, blood arcs across the stone, and the whole area goes still in the blink of an eye. The scene shifts. The bearded man speaks into the telephone, tone gruff and pleased. Yeah? Got it. Well done. He sets the telephone down, glares at the kneeling captive, and says sharply, "Nothing good will come of holding out. We'll just have to get your family involved." The captive lifts his head, voice tight and empty. "I have no family." The bearded man smirks darkly. "I just heard different." The bearded man leans in, voice cold and sharp. "You have a kid sister, right?" The captured man's eyes snap, wide in pure shock. He tosses an address slip to his subordinate and orders, "She's at this address. Bring her here." He turns back to the captive, sneering. "Now you can hate yourself for not hiding her better." One of his men nods gruffly. "Let's go." The captive struggles forward, voice cracking in panic. "Wait. W." He screams, desperation breaking through. "Okay, we'll tell you everything I know, please." But before they can even reach for the door, steel flashes. A single clean slash cuts them down mid-step, ending their advance instantly. I step into the middle of the room, my shadow falling over them. Before anyone can draw their blade, I strike. One man gasps sharply, "H," as blood bursts from his chest, collapsing before he can even lift a hand. I keep moving, spinning and slashing in a blur of steel. Men shout and scramble back, but my cuts are too fast. Blood sprays across walls and floor. Bodies drop one after another, the air filling with cries that cut short in an instant. I stand amid the chaos, coat flaring like a dark storm, gaze sharp and unyielding. The captive stares up at me, eyes wide, face streaked with blood and sweat, shaken, but alive, watching me like I just pulled him from the edge of hell. The bearded man inside shouts in rage and panic. "Where are the guards? Who the hell are you?" From outside the building, Shiba's voice rings out loud and clear. "Hey, boss, these guys are slaking off." He adds sharply, so everyone hears, "That kid's the son of Kunishige Rokuhira. You've heard of him, right? The master swordsmith, famous for his special technique that no one else can do." The bearded man glares at me, voice booming with authority. "What do you want?" I stand still amid the fallen bodies, looking straight at him. "I came to ask you something." And also, blood smudges my cheek as I lift my chin, eyes burning cold and unyielding. "I can't allow slime like you to wield katana." The bearded man's face twists with rage, slamming a fist on the railing. "What? What a crock. Get him. Kill him. We'll string him up too." His men draw their swords in a chaotic rush, metal scraping loudly. They surge forward from all sides, shouting and closing in fast, blades glinting under the lights. I rest my hand on the hilt of my own sword, not moving an inch yet. A soft shing rings out as I loosen it just slightly. From outside, Shiba's voice carries clearly through the noise. Kunishige Rokuhira imbued his katana with sorcery. I grip the hilt tighter, ready to meet every one of them as they come. As Mr. Shiba continues speaking from outside, he reveals, "Kunishige Rokuhira. The katana he made were enchanted blades with special powers." I stand firm in the doorway, hand resting on the hilt, and speak the name low and steady. "Enten." I draw the blade all the way out. Dark, shimmering energy surges like flowing water, swirling through the air. From within that inky glow, a massive, ghostly goldfish emerges, its scales catching faint light, fins rippling as if swimming through the space itself. It circles slow and powerful around me, while I hold the enchanted sword ready, its unique power humming strong in my grip. The bearded man and his men stare in total disbelief, shouting, "What?" Mr. Shiba says quietly, "The katana that boy wields was Kunishige's last katana, the one he gave his life to make." To put it simply for us watching, this isn't just any ordinary sword. It was the final, greatest work of the master swordsmith Kunishige Rokuhira. He poured all his skill, and even his life, into forging this single blade. Dark, swirling black energy wraps tight around my arm and sword as I speak one sharp word. "Black." They surge forward all at once, yelling and swinging their blades wildly. Blow after blow rains down hard, but I stand my ground. I meet every strike, blocking and turning aside every attack with steady, sure moves. The dark, ink-like energy surges outward, bursting through the crowd like a crashing wave. Men stumble back, shouting in alarm as the black fluid swirls and lashes around them, scattering their formation instantly. I leap high above the chaos, shadows coiling tight around my blade. I twist in midair, dropping down fast toward the thickest group of attackers. They swing wildly upward, but their swords only slice through empty space. I land hard, sending another wave of dark force rippling out. The sound whoosh echoes as bodies are knocked aside, weapons clattering across the floor. I grip the hilt tight, the enchanted power roaring and shifting into its next form, and speak the name of this technique clear and sharp, Nishiki. Once the fight is fully over, the scene softens to a quiet moment outside. A few small birds rest calmly on the power lines, the sky light and still, as if far away from all the chaos. Then we return inside. Shiba walks slowly toward the doors, smoke curling around him. He pushes them open and steps in. The whole room is a grim sight. Dozens of dead bodies lie scattered across the floor, blood staining every surface, swords and chairs overturned among them. There is no sound left but our footsteps. He moves further into the wreckage. I stand over the kneeling, bearded man, my sword still wet with blood, and speak clearly. Tell us what you know about the Hishaku. He stares up, eyes wide and utterly confused. The Hishaku? What are you talking about? What is the Hishaku? I look him straight in the eye and say sharply, the group of sorcerers backing you. If you want to play dumb, that's fine. I'm sure your men are already waiting for you in hell. The room is quiet now, only the smell of blood hanging heavy. Shiba kneels beside the captured man, voice soft with concern. You okay? We turn to the bearded man, who trembles violently, sweat dripping down his face. He chokes out, voice cracking with terror. The Hishaku, those guys, are monsters. I stand still, listening without moving. He shouts louder, eyes wide with disbelief. If you want to pick a fight with monsters like that, you're insane. I look straight at him, my expression unchanging. Do I seem sane to you? I pause for a moment, then speak low and steady, every word carrying absolute resolve. I don't care if they're monsters. I have to cut them down. We move to the captured man. Rope is pulled tight around his wrists, and Shiba says as he finishes tying, There, got it. He pats the man gently on the shoulder, adding, That must have been rough. The captured man looks up, still dazed and confused. Thank you. Who are you guys? Shiba answers simply, I'm Shiba. The man nods slowly. Oh. Nearby, I stand with my sword resting at my side, voice low and firm. I don't care if they're monsters. I have to cut them down. Shiba turns back to the bearded man lying on the floor, pressing him down with a sharp tone. There you have it. Got that scum. The bearded man stares up at us, completely silent now. Shiba leans over sharply, speaking firmly to the bearded man. Seriously, dude, you'd better listen to this guy. He turns to me, giving a thumbs up. I'm here for support. I nod back. Thanks. I look straight at the bearded man, voice steady. All we know about the Hishaku is that they first emerged 4 years ago. Shiba adds, That's what we know. I continue. Rumor has it they're a small, elite group of sorcerers, but we can't be certain. Shiba sighs. Too bad we can't be certain. I glance at him, clearly annoyed, and he quickly holds up a hand to quiet himself. Then said you don't need me chiming in. Not even the first time. I ignore him and focus fully on the bearded man, tone growing more serious. You know about the Hishaku? Tell me everything you know. The bearded man grits his teeth, voice cracking with frustration and fear. Fine. What's with you guys? He struggles to get the words out. The Hishaku. Shiba turns to the captured man, tone softening. Why don't we go get some fresh air, buddy? I nod in agreement. Yeah? Suddenly the bearded man's eyes bulge wide, and he screams in agony, his whole body convulsing. Hisha. I step forward quickly, alarmed. Hey, what's wrong? Cough it up. Before anyone can move, thick, writhing black shadows burst violently out from inside the bearded man, shattering the floor and walls with a deafening crash. I leap back and shout urgently, pointing for them to go. Run, you too. Shiba blinks, caught completely off guard, huh? The dark tendrils lash out everywhere, tearing through the room and flinging debris aside. The captured man stumbles back, frozen in terror as the shadows surge straight toward him. The captured man stares wide-eyed as the writhing black shadows loom closer, his voice trembling. Oh, I'm gonna die. Shiba closes the distance in an instant, one hand shooting out to grip the man firmly by the throat, pulling him sharply back from the oncoming danger. His other hand lifts, faint light beginning to glow around his fingers as he channels his power. You're not gonna die? He unleashes his own sorcery technique. Bright energy surges outward, pushing back the encroaching shadows. With the man still held secure, Shiba turns and rushes him out through the doorway, setting him down firmly on the ground outside. He lets go and adds quietly, "Sorry, that was a bit rough. You okay?" The man gasps for breath, still dazed. I'm outside." He looks up at Shiba, equal parts confused and grateful. "Wow. Thank you. How did you?" Shiba dusts off his hands, explaining simply, "You're in shock. Never seen that kind of sorcery before, huh?" Shiba looks around as he speaks, tone casual for a moment. "Of course, I guess most sorcerers are in the big city, so that's why there's still guys like you out in the sticks." Beside him, the captured man hunches over, hand pressed to his mouth, pale and unsteady. "Ulf, I feel sick." Shiba glances at him, then adds quickly, "You're young too." More importantly, he spots me and hurries over, looking relieved. "Chihiro. Oh good, you're okay." "Sheesh, that was close." I glance back toward the wrecked room and ask, "Yeah, how's that guy?" Shiba nods toward the captured man. "Oh, he's fine. Just a little queasy." I breathe out, relaxing a little. "That's good. Thank you." My face turns serious as I recall what triggered it all. It happened the moment he started to talk about the Hishaku. Shiba's expression hardens as he looks at the twisted, shadow-ridden remains. They must have put a spell inside his body. They're thorough, I'll give them that. Still though, look at the scale of it. He meets my gaze and says firmly, "The sorcerer behind this was definitely high level." The bearded man's body is twisted and consumed by dark shadows, his face warped beyond recognition as the hidden spell fully unravels. Shiba looks over the wreckage and says, "Think I'll head on back over to Tokyo." I answer right away, "I'll go too." As we turn to leave, my legs suddenly give out, and I wobble badly. Shiba quickly steps forward to support me, saying gently, "Easy now. You burned up a lot of energy today." I look ahead, voice quiet but firm. "Still." Shiba's gaze softens as he thinks back, speaking mostly to himself. 3 years ago, this kid had zero combat experience. He still hasn't unlocked the Enchanted blade's true potential yet, but it's really impressive how far he's come. The view shifts to Rokuhira's old home and workshop. Faint, glowing lines stretch all around the buildings, showing that the whole place was once shielded from the outside by a strong magic barrier. Shiba takes a slow breath, sweat beading on his forehead as he recalls that fateful day. That barrier, it was configured to alert me to any interference or intruders. So the moment it triggered, I rushed over as fast as I could. He trails off, his face falling pale with dread. Oh no. The memory unfolds. He hurries through the trees, stepping out onto the path, only to stop dead in his tracks. Before him lies Rokuhira's workshop and home, completely destroyed, walls collapsed, roof shattered, debris scattered everywhere. In the middle of the wreckage sits a lone figure, and nearby, the terrible sight of what he found there. Shiba stares in horror, frozen by the devastation he's witnessing. I kneel deep in the ruins of the workshop, blood soaking the ground around me. My father Kunishige Rokuhira lies motionless before me, and I hold the hilt of his katana tightly, my face streaked with blood and tears. Shiba rushes through the broken doorway, shouting in panic, "Rokuhira! Chihiro! Are you okay?" I lift my head slowly, still dazed and numb. "Mr. Shiba." He stops short, staring at the carnage all around, horrified. "What on earth?" My voice shakes as I recall what I saw. There were 3 sorcerers. My memory unfolds right then. My father Kunishige Rokuhira is on his hands and knees, blood covering his clothes and the ground all around him. Fire and smoke burn in the background. The three sorcerers stand surrounding him, one masked in dark robes, one in a suit and hat, and another nearby. I lie collapsed on the floor, blood running down my face, my eyes wide with pain and shock. Nearby, one of the intruders climbs out from the piles of broken rubble. Standing calmly over me is the man in the top hat. He smiles coldly, and the dark, distinct mark of sorcery burns clearly on the back of his hand. After I finish recounting the last thing I saw before losing consciousness, I add quietly, I blacked out. Then the story unfolds as narration, explaining the full truth. During the war, Rokuhira forged 6 enchanted blades and sent them out into the world. After the war ended, he retrieved all 6 swords and hid them in the cellar beneath his workshop. We stand before the wreckage of that cellar. Every storage box broken open, completely empty. Shiba stares at the sight, face pale with shock, and breathes out in horror. They're gone. All of them are gone. Shiba lets out a breath he'd been holding, reaching out toward me. At least, it's good to see you're fine. His eyes dart to the blood covering my face and neck, and his tone turns sharp with worry. Well, not exactly fine. That wound, you okay? I shake my head faintly, forcing a steady tone. I'm fine. It's nothing. Then, like a voice echoing from the past, my father's words rise clearly in my mind. Look, Chihiro. I remember my father standing before the wall of sealed cases, saying, "These are the enchanted blades. They each have a special power." I pause, lost in thought, and whisper, "The kind of katana I should try to make." He smiles faintly and adds, "Maybe, but listen, these aren't necessarily the right answer. You can't just strive to make strong, enchanted blades." He looks straight at me, his tone earnest. "You're going to have to look at the world through your own eyes and think carefully about what kind of katana it needs and why." I nod slowly. I ponder that every day. He puts a hand on my shoulder, slowly but surely. "We'll learn to do that together." I answer, "Yeah, but Dad." I glance at his shirt and can't help but say, "If you're going to talk about serious stuff, you should wear a more serious shirt. It's distracting." He blinks in surprise, then tugs at his sunny-themed top. "What? I thought this was cool." I give a small, faint smile. "You thought it was cool?" Then the memory faded. Blood drips slowly down my face. My eyes fixed blankly on my father's lifeless form, his face covered in blood just like mine. My voice shakes with shock and burning confusion. Who are they? Do they know how much Dad cared about the katana? All this, why? I curse through gritted teeth, anger and grief warring inside me. Every splinter of wood, every fallen stone of the ruined workshop feels like a fresh wound. Shiba steps close, his hand steadying my trembling shoulder, face etched with deep guilt and worry. "I'm sorry. If only I'd gotten here sooner. How did they find this place?" My blood runs hot with rage and grief, knuckles white as I grip the hilt tight, my voice shaking with fierce resolve. "They have to know what Dad believed in. I'll show them. I'll cut them all down." Every word burns with pain for what was lost, and cold, unshakable determination to make those responsible pay. You see the katana I wield now. It is the 7th one, the one my father spent years completing after the war and gave his life to protect. It is stronger than the other 6. Since that day, there's been no reliable information about the Hishaku or the enchanted blades. Just when we finally had a lead, at this very moment someone could be using Dad's swords for evil. I have to find the Hishaku and the enchanted blades as soon as possible. It is night in Tokyo, the city glowing under the full moon. I sit by the window, holding the katana close, lost in thought. Shiba calls out to me, "Chihiro." I look over, surprised. "What?" He stands in the doorway and says, "You're awake. As soon as everything's ready, we'll head out." We got to Tokyo just in time. We finally got a lead. There's been a sighting of an enchanted blade. I grip the hilt tight, resolve clear in my voice. "Let's go." Now let me introduce the new character. She leans forward with a bright smile and asks, "Is this your first time in Tokyo?" Then she explains, "As you know, Japan is a katana society. While it's legal to own a katana for self-defense, it also makes owning one dangerous. That's why the leaders of Yakuza gangs and big corporations are always searching for stronger self-defense measures. That's where these guys come in." Tokyo has more than 1,000 sorcerers, more than any other place in Japan. Connecting those parties is my job. We're Hishaku information hunters, marked by the flame symbol on the palm of our hand. This request comes from one of our regulars. The scene shifts back 3 years earlier. Shiba walks in and greets her. How's it going, Hinao? This is how we learn the girl's name is Hinao. Hinao greets Shiba casually. Not bad. It's been a minute. What you been up to? Shiba answers. Oh, this and that. Hinao leans forward. So what'll it be? I got a few juicy options. You can be a bodyguard for the CEO of Saikosha, or a bodyguard for the Renjikai chairman's daughter, or security for the Tagetsu estate. Shiba shakes his head. Oh, no. I'm not here for work today. Hinao looks confused for a moment. Then Shiba asks seriously. Hinao, have you heard of Kunishige Rokuhira? Hinao replies, sounding almost offended. Of course. What, you think I don't know anything? Shiba presses on. Did ya know he was murdered? Hinao nods solemnly. Yeah, I was shocked when I heard the news. The Hishaku group has claimed responsibility, and I heard they stole some enchanted blades. Shiba falls quiet, looking heavy-hearted. Hinao blinks in confusion and asks, So what about it? Shiba hesitates, then says, Oh well. Actually, Hinao later explains, that was the first time I learned that Mr. Shiba was connected to Kunishige Rokuhira. After I heard their story, I agreed to help. But nothing ever turned up. She sighs, looking thoroughly bored. It's always the same. Nothing but Yakuza and maniac sorcerers. Just then, someone pushed open the door. Hinao looked up, a gentle smile appearing on her face as she spoke in a welcoming tone. Welcome. Standing right there in the doorway, we see a quiet little girl looking back at us. It's night in Tokyo, lights shining bright over the busy streets where people walk by, some carrying katanas. We stop right at Cafe Haru Haru, then walk inside. Shiba calls out loudly. Excuse us. Hinao says sharply. Keep it down. She grumbles. I hate loudmouth old dudes. Then suddenly pauses, spots me, and waves with a brighter tone. Oh, hey, Chihiro. Looking cool as always. Chihiro says, Hi. Hinao lights up with delight and exclaims, So cool. You're amazing. Chihiro looks confused and asks, Amazing? Hinao then greets them properly. Welcome. Shiba adds, Thanks for contacting us, Hinao. Chihiro gets straight to business. So, someone witnessed an enchanted blade, huh? Hinao answers, Yeah, she's sleeping in the back. After Hinao says she's sleeping in the back, we see the little girl fast asleep, her mouth hanging open as she hums softly. We walk over to the room where she rests. Mr. Shiba stares and blurts out, What? This little brat. Chihiro turns to Hinao and asks, She's the witness? Hinao nods. Yeah, she passed out right away. We all see this as all what happened according to Hinao. The little girl steps inside and calls out, Hello. Hinao looks up and asks, Hello. You need something? The girl says clearly, I came to inquire about hiring a sorcerer. Hinao smiles and says, You're so articulate, kiddo. How come? The girl grips her fists tight and answers, I need protection. A bad guy's chasing me. Hinao nods and says, I see. In that case, how much money do you have? The little girl looks down and answers, Zip. Zilch. 0. Hinao groans, Oh dear. The girl echoes, Oh dear. Hinao then asks, By the way, what kind of bad guy's after you? The little girl thinks for a moment and replies, A bad guy with the strongest sword. Hearing this, Hinao suddenly gets an idea. That was the moment Hinao contacted us. She said, That was the aha moment. Like, that's gotta be an enchanted blade. Mr. Shiba paused, then said, Well, can't know until we hear more, but seems kinda doubtful. Chihiro nodded. Yeah. Hinao looked confused. Huh? How come? Mr. Shiba replied. From the sound of it, it's highly likely the kid's just goofing around, and added quietly, The most strongest sword. Hinao stared, still puzzled. Huh? I stayed silent for a moment, and murmuring, Hippos? Mr. Shiba went on. You can't just swallow some little kid's tail whole. Hinao insisted. But you said even the slightest little lead matters. And nearby, the little girl was still fast asleep, murmuring something about the hippos. The little girl keeps murmuring something about cell division. Chihiro says, She's talking in her sleep. Mr. Shiba asks, what kind of dream is that? Hinao adds, she's heard of cell division? Suddenly the little girl's eyes fly wide open and she gasps sharply, but we all know she was just pretending to sleep this whole time. Chihiro notes, she's awake. Mr. Shiba asks, a nightmare, huh? The girl blinks and says, oh, then looks at them and cries out, sorcerers, are you here to protect me? Mr. Shiba holds up a hand and says, hold up there, Missy. Let's get some things straight. First off, why is this bad guy after you? The little girl's expression shifts from sharp anger to quiet sadness. Mr. Shiba says, huh? Is that all you've got? That didn't take long. Seems like the jig's up. He adds firmly, this is no place to play around. Go home. The little girl shakes her head slowly. Mr. Shiba asks, are you lost? She answers in a small voice, I don't have a home. He pauses, then asks gently, no mom or dad. The girl falls silent, then shakes her head again. I stay quiet for a moment, watching her. Mr. Shiba sighs, an orphan, huh? Okay, that's tough. I guess we'll take her to an orphanage then. I don't say anything yet, just see how sad she looks. I walk over, kneel down in front of her, and ask softly, what about food? Have you eaten lately? She stares at me, then her stomach rumbles loudly. I nod. And there it is, I smile a little. You haven't had anything at all, huh? Do you want something to eat? Her eyes light up right away. Tempura soba. She leans forward, all excited. Oh, you really mean it? I chuckle. But you already told me exactly what you wanted. We step outside and see Mr. Shiba leaning against the old car, smoking as he thinks back. He murmurs to himself, Chihiro's good at looking after people. He remembers how I'd always argue with my dad, because dad was always forgetting things, and I was the one reminding him every time. He adds softly, he's had plenty of practice with his dad. The scene shifts to the restaurant. The waiter sets down a steaming bowl and says, here you go, 1 tempura soba. The little girl cheers out loud. Yay. The waiter turns to the little girl, and a cold soba for you. The little girl said, I'm Char. The girl mumbles through a mouthful of steam. I nod to the waiter, thank you. She immediately dives into her food, slurping and eating wildly. I smile and say, oh, we're doing introductions now? I'm Chihiro. She doesn't even look up, too busy enjoying her meal. Charlie takes a big bite and says happily, if someone asked me if this was yummy, I'd say yes. I sit across from her at the table and call, hey Char. She looks up, confused. After we eat, I'll take you to an orphanage, I explain gently. There'll be other kids to play with there. Her face falls, and she asks anxiously, you're not going to protect me? I thought this soba was to seal the deal. Who said anything about that? I reply, it's like Mr. Shiba said, this isn't a place to mess around. I'm not playing around, she insists firmly. Then tell me why a bad guy is after you. I say. She hesitates, then mumbles, because, I lean forward a little. You can tell me. You haven't got an answer yet, right? She shakes her head. No, I just don't want to tell you. I pause, staring at her in confusion, and keep eating my soba quietly. We eat quietly for a while. The girl looks worried and sad, while I glance over at her. Then a tall man walks into the restaurant, and I pause for a moment before turning back to her. Well then, tell me about this super strong sword, I say. She keeps chewing, then mumbles something I can't make out. Huh? Golf what? I ask, confused. She looks up and says clearly, a cloud comes out of it. I suddenly remember the 6-chained, enchanted blade sealed, and mutter to myself, is it a coincidence? But to cloud? That's way too specific. I lean forward and ask her seriously, hey, you're really not kidding around? She shakes her head firmly. I'm not. I bow my head, thinking hard, then ask her, did the bad guy have a flame symbol on his hand? She answers quietly, I don't think so. Meanwhile, the waiter confronts the tall man. You don't want to order? The tall man snaps, just get lost. The waiter gets angry. What do you mean? This is a restaurant. Order something or get out. I turn back to Charlie and ask, so, it's just the one guy with the sword? She shakes her head. No, suddenly the tall man snaps a chopstick in half, snarls, shut up, and slashes it straight at the waiter's throat. At the same time, Charlie keeps talking, he's got a whole bunch of henchmen. Then the tall man's voice rings out. Well, I finally found you. I look back at him, totally confused. I look back sharply and see the waiter lying motionless on the floor, the chopstick still at his throat. The tall, strange man stands there and says, "But this is a surprise. You have a bodyguard." The waitress freezes in total shock. The tall man sighs and mutters, "What a pain." I stand up at once and call out firmly, "Hey, what are you?" Right then, a strange round doll with huge eyes floats into the air. The tall man smirks and says, "Invincible." The doll suddenly cracks apart, then bursts with a deafening boom. BM. The blast hurls me clear out of the restaurant and onto the street. People stare in shock, shouting, "What was that? A sorcerer? Run!" I push myself up, dust and rubble all around me, and think to myself, Char wasn't lying at all. Someone really is after her, and what she saw was an enchanted blade. If that's true, this sorcerer must be working with whoever holds it. But why target Char? No, focus later. I call out loud, "Char? I'm sorry I doubted you." The tall, strange man steps out of the ruined restaurant, holding Char up by a magical cord that bobs and drips as he smirks. Still alive and kicking. Huh? Well, this is problematic. Char looks over at me, eyes wide and pleading. "I forgive you. Just please save me." I grip the hilt of my katana, draw it with a sharp kshing, and stand ready to fight. "You got it," I say firmly.